So Bomb Squad has finally said that he will face Dillian Whyte if Dillian Whyte beats Ortiz. Now that fight isn't confirmed yet, but it looks like it might happen. You know, I already reported that Luis Ortiz and Dillian Whyte, you know, Luis Ortiz agreed to face him, so it looks like it might get made. But again, Derek Chisora is still there, so I don't know. I have to wait to see if it's confirmed yet. But Deontay Wilder has already said that he would definitely face Dillian Whyte if he were to beat Luis Ortiz. Again, when it comes to Deontay Wilder holds Luis Ortiz on such a high pedestal, you know, because he thinks that Luis Ortiz is one of the best pound for pound heavyweights. He thinks he's the best elite heavyweight just because he struggled with Luis Ortiz. And a lot of times when fighters struggle with these with certain fighters, they get traumatized. They think these guys are, you know, unbeatable. Luis Ortiz is a good fighter. I think he's quality. I think he gives Dillian Whyte hell, but I personally don't think he's unbeatable or a Rubik's Cube that nobody could beat him. And Deontay Wilder is the only heavyweight who was capable of beating someone like Luis Ortiz. I've seen weaknesses in him. I've seen him getting outboxed. I know you could beat Luis Ortiz. I've seen his style. I know fighters who could beat his style. Like, I personally would have picked a prime Tyson Fury to outbox Luis Ortiz. Just because style-wise, that's a nightmare for Luis Ortiz because he don't know how to cut the ring off. But, yeah, he says he'll face Dillian Whyte, which is excellent because I would love to see Dillian Whyte versus Deontay Wilder. Dillian Whyte has been begging for a title opportunity. This would be a great matchup for him. And also, this would be a credible fight for Deontay Wilder if he were to defend his belt against Dillian Whyte, because Dillian Whyte is seen as a legit top 10 heavyweight. I personally will give him credit for beating Dillian Whyte. And to be honest, if that fight were to get made, I would be picking Deontay Wilder to beat. I've been saying this for months. I would be picking Deontay Wilder to beat Dillian Whyte. I think Deontay Wilder is capable of knocking out Dillian Whyte. Just because Dillian Whyte's style, how he comes forward and he's in your face. And that's exactly what Deontay Wilder needs. He needs you to be coming forward. Right, Dillian Whyte is very hittable, so I would be actually leaning towards Deontay Wilder to knock out Dillian Whyte. But I do think that's a credible win for Deontay Wilder. I think it's definitely better than if he were to face someone like Dominic Breazeale, just because Dominic Breazeale he's one-dimensional, and he has no defense at all, and he doesn't have he's not as talented as someone like Dillian Whyte. And he also doesn't have the resume. I know he fought Anthony Joshua, but he lost every single round against Anthony Joshua. And, you know, the best win in his career was against Izzy Ogono. Izzy Ogono was a prospect. You know, it wasn't like he fought. If you look at Izzy Ogono's resume, he hadn't fought anyone. You know, the first guy he fought with a post was Dominic Breazeale, and he lost in that fight. So, you know, it wasn't like he had a stacked resume. So I don't really see how highly I could rate that win over Izzy Ogono for Dominic Breazeale. So I definitely rate in terms of like who's done more at heavyweight, who's had better wins, Dillian Whyte over someone like Dominic Breazeale. I also rate him higher than Luis Ortiz because I think when he beat Joseph Parker, I think that's better than anyone Luis Ortiz ever beat. I mean, the best guy Luis Ortiz has ever beaten was what's his name? Brian Jennings. It would have been Deontay Wilder, but he lost against him, so it was actually Brian Jennings. And I think Joseph Parker has done more than Brian Jennings. You know, he was a champion. Brian Jennings never became a champion. So I currently rate Dillian Whyte higher than Luis Ortiz. But again, hopefully this is not just talk, because, you know, maybe let's say he does face him. Maybe Dillian Whyte faces Luis Ortiz. Let's say he beats him. And then once again, Deontay Wilder's making up these excuses, you know, because Deontay Wilder, his team say that Dillian Whyte hasn't earned the right, which is absolutely ridiculous. Hasn't earned the right to face Deontay Wilder. Yet guys like Tyson Fury earned the right to face Deontay Wilder when he came off a 3-year layoff and fought two bums. That doesn't make sense. Yet Luis Ortiz earned the right to fight Deontay Wilder when the best win in his resume was Brian Jennings. Yet Dillian Whyte be a former champion in Joseph Parker. So how is it that Luis Ortiz had more of a right to face Deontay Wilder, but Dillian Whyte didn't? It just doesn't make sense, especially if you're comparing the quality of opponents. Like, what is it to Deontay Wilder fans? What makes you earn the right to face Deontay Wilder? I thought it was facing legit quality opposition, not facing low-level opposition. And it seems to, with Deontay Wilder fans, if you face legit quality opposition, you haven't earned the right to face Deontay Wilder for his championship belt. But if you face poor opposition, you earn the right. You see what I'm saying? I guess Deontay Wilder fans are so traumatized of seeing Deontay Wilder only face, very weak level opposition that now they think that's normal. It's normal for a heavyweight to defend his belt against a weak level opposition because Deontay Wilder did it for so many years. He was fighting low level guys for so many years. So I think this kind of traumatized his fan base, and that's why all they want to see him in there is against these low level heavyweights, because Wilder was facing these low level heavyweights for several years. So yeah, man, that's all I have to say, guys. Just letting you know what Deontay Wilder said and trying to be consistent on my channel. I'm trying to, if you guys notice, I've been uploading a lot of videos. I've been working a lot on my channel because I want to be more consistent. I used to be very consistent on the channel, so I'm trying to be way more consistent. Anyway, guys, I'd love to say subscribe for the latest in boxing, and thanks for watching them out. Much appreciated.